Morning to you. Today is Friday, January 23rd, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. Friday. So we are going to land this properly because this is the end of this week theme. And if you've been following me all the week, you've heard me say one theme in different ways. Boards don't fail on intent. Boards stumble on sequencing. And when a strategy depends on regulated milestones, interim funding, and shareholder votes, you need one thing more than another plan. What you need is a drill, a repeatable board drill that answers two questions. Number one is, are we still on a credible path to launch? And number two, are we drifting into BC instead of ready? So I'm going to show you today a simple launch readiness drill built around three work streams. Number one is capital, number two is control, and number three is communications. And I will anchor all this drill into a live listed London Stock Exchange alternative investment market company that I'm watching because it's a clean example of what mobilization looks like in public. And if you're wondering what a mobilization is, you can go back to Monday and Tuesday this week episodes in my LinkedIn profile, and I'll explain that what it is and with several examples. So in this particular company, in its own reporting, the story is very explicit. The invested bank has a conditional license position and needs a minimum of a £25 million regulatory capital to move forward, right? Situation number one. Situation number two, the listed parent also disclosed interim funding support of £1.7 million. That's an advancement that they did in September 2025, alongside an investment management firm package of 3.5 million, and announce a conditional 100% acquisition that depends on a Financial Conduct Authority change of control approval and shareholder vote. So you see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 moving parts, right? It's interesting. That is a lot for investors to analyze. So the board has to run the business and also run the narrative. So let's take a look at three problems with this. Problem number one, but always referring to this company I'm watching, which by the way is a great example of how to launch in a gated by no negotiables. So the banking milestone is tied to a minimum 25 million regulatory capital rise, and the listed parent, remember, is funding the bridge while the gate stays closed. If that gate slips, everything else stuck up behind it. So problem number two, approval clocks are real clocks. The Financial Conduct Authority says it has up to 60 working days from when the change in control notification is considered complete to assess a case. So boards that don't plan to that clock end up promising dates they can control. And when I mention clock is literally the figure the clock is ticking because you have a timeline, 60 working days, excluding interruption periods, etc., to provide this information. And problem number three, you can create an inside information problem by being helpful. And this is not sarcasm, it's just genuinely people would try to be helpful. But the Financial Conduct Authority best practice note on inside information exists because issuers still get it wrong. If your communications cadence is loose during a conditional acquisition and funding sequence, you increase the risk of inconsistent disclosures. So what these three problems look like, in other words, imagine that mobilization is like building a plane in a hangar with the runway booked already. But the booking of the runway in the airport doesn't move because you fell behind, right? So other planes, other manufacturers, other passengers are using that runway. So you have your time slot and you have to continue, you have to fulfill your schedule, you have to complete your schedule to put the plane on the runway at the time that is booked. So, as an advisory board, what I would propose to consider in this case, number one, so let's put it this way. So, what does a capable board do? It stops managing slides and starts managing in checks, right? And managing checks means actually you have a drill, what I mentioned at the beginning. And let's go into the drill actually. So there's three work streams in this drill. And this you can make a note or watch it later because it's very interesting. So there's three things in this drill. One is capital, second is control, and third is communications. Number one, capital. Run a runway gate check. Tie your cash plan to a single gating milestone, not to optimize launch dates. Plan the single gating milestone, right? In the case I'm watching, that means aligning interim support, the larger funding package, and the 25 million pound requirement into a single timeline that the board can defend, right? So you have all these moving pieces of funding all together in one single timeline. Number two is control. Map every condition to a named owner and an external clock. For the conditional acquisition here, the company has disclosed two clear conditions. Number one is Financial Conduct Authority change of control approval, and the second condition is the shareholder approval to amend the investing policy for majority of ownership. So treat each project as a project, not as a footnote, right? And the third thing is communications. Build a regulatory news service trigger list and stick with it. Use the Financial Conduct Authority inside information best practices as your baseline for systems and controls. Then document what will trigger an announcement, what will not, and who has signed off. This reduces accidental inconsistencies because credibility and trust in the market today is the oxygen of any company. So you have to be reliable in your communications. Now, I would like to add one UK reality check here. If you are in authorization with restriction, which means actually, yeah, you're licensed, but meaning you cannot go to market yet, and in a mobilization pathway, the timetable is not limitless. The Bank of England says new banks are not normally allowed to remain in mobilization for more than 12 months. So you will have to add an extra line in the drill that we mentioned there, capital control and comms. And this extra line is what must be true 90 days from now for mobilization to stay credible. And back to the credibility and trust in the market, this is oxygen for your investors. So you have to make sure that this is 100% accurate. Suppose you cannot answer that cleanly. So you don't have a plan really. What you have is a lot of hopes. But I don't think that is the case in this particular company because the communications are very good. So, but might happen in certain boards. So why this approach matters, the drill? For three things: outcomes, differentiators, and risk reduction. In terms of outcomes, run the launch readiness drill with your chair, your CFO, and company secretary, and leave with a one-page pack insert. One page, the capital, controls, and comms, each with owners, clocks, meaning the timetable, and the next regulatory news service triggers, tailored to your actual conditions. So the live case I'm following shows how many moving parts, remember all these moving parts, 6 of them or 5 of them are juggling at once. So investors it's a lot to analyze. So you have to tailor these conversations on news very, very carefully and stick with them. In terms of differentiators, work from the regulators' published expectations, not generic best practices. That includes Financial Conduct Authority changing control time in reality and the Financial Conduct Authority inside information best practice note. So your plan is built around the real constraints. So you are helped to reduce risk, which is our next point. So stress, test, dilution, and bridge finance narratives before the market does. Don't let people make their own minds. In the live case I'm following, the disclosed structures include an investment management firm package an at-the-market facility for £12 million, and bridging working capital facility, plus public caution language around regulatory outcomes. So very, very clear communications. So that reduces your risk and turn all that into a coherent investor story with guardrails, right? Trust, confidence, very, very complex information, very well displayed. So one action you can take home today is doable in less than 30 minutes. So book a 25 minutes with your chair, your CFO, and the company secretary, and complete a one-page capital controls and communications drill with one named owner and one next step date on each box. Right, so let's pause here for today and reconvene next week on Monday, because next Monday I have another very interesting case I'm following. The London Stock Exchange is a company that was very heavy into traffic, online presence, and they started to own assets. So how smart was this business that pivot from own channels, data, IP, and AI-driven efficiency? Very fascinating case. And by the way, if you are in the UK listed board, in the case of mobilisation, running a conditional acquisitions, or funding a regulated launch, message me the word MAP, M-A-P, and I will set up a 30-minute call to understand what is your position today and how an advisory board can help. Right, have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Thank you. Bye-bye.